I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
There have sure been a lot of movies filmed in Boston recently, and it was only a matter of time before a list like this had to be made. The cities and suburbs of Massachusetts offer a gritty atmosphere that play well in a lot of action and crime dramas, not to mention the other ideal film settings, like the college campuses and the universities for the more academic-based films. But with all the motion pictures that were filmed here, what are the best? We could start all the way back at Mystery Street from 1950, which is one of the first movies to use a Boston setting and also to be shot on location. But after that, Boston only appears sporadically in Hollywood. However, in the last 20 years or so, the rate has picked up as the city has been represented more consistently than ever. And that is the timeline I will concentrate on. Now please keep in mind that narrowing down so many great movies is no easy task. So before you slam the dislike button and blast me in the comment section, remember that it's just an opinion. My main goal is to have the best of the best represented and then give my own personal order. Everything else is up for debate. With that said, let's take a look at the top 10 best Boston movies of the last 20 years. Up first at number 10 is Southie from 1999, starring Donnie Wahlberg and Rose McGowan as siblings from South Boston. For me, Southie cracks the top 10 because it's a solid early entry into what has become the basis of making a good Boston tough guy movie nowadays. The atmosphere of the city is nicely spread throughout the film, using people who have never acted before, adding to the real-life quality. This is an instance where the low budget and inexperience of the actors actually helps the movie's gritty, realistic appeal. This is a method that will be used by future directors like Ben Affleck. Southie is a familiar mob tale with a decent supporting cast, which includes Ann Mira, and also an early role for Will Arnett. Overall, I think for an indie flick it has a lot of heart and really captures the struggles of life with a big family in a tough neighborhood. It does well in building suspense throughout the film, with a satisfying showdown and climax to the movie. A nice precursor of what was to follow. It's worth checking out at number 10. At number 9 is The Boondock Saints from 1999, a movie that ran in only 5 theaters for literally 1 week. Critics absolutely hate it, yet it still has a strong cult following. The most common criticism is that The Boondock Saints is trying to be too much like Quentin Tarantino. It does go for that stylistic type of violence, with just about every on-screen death shot shown in slow motion. But it lacks Tarantino's sharp wit, particularly in the dialogue. What you're left with is a series of death scenes strung together by somewhat of a thin premise. But don't let that fool you, it's still an entertaining movie, if you take it for what it is. An hour-and-a-half long adrenaline rush, action-packed with its share of funny moments. When it comes to The Boondock Saints, for me, William Dafoe just steals the show. In a movie that only earned around $30,000 at the box office, he sure did go all out. Dafoe's over-the-top performance, in my opinion, is the highlight of the film. He's entertaining as hell to watch, and no doubt adds to the movie's cult-like status. A lot of The Boondock Saints was filmed and shot on location in Boston, using the city's Irish roots as part of the character's backstory. Because of that and the cult following, it gets the number 9 spot. Number 8 is Ted from 2012, starring Mark Wahlberg and Mila Kunis, with Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane as writer, director, and voice of Ted. And he delivers on an interesting premise about what happens when a childhood wish continues on into adulthood. In a film that's very reminiscent of his usual brand of quick, irreverent, and satirical comedy, with a lot of what he doesn't get to say on television. With Ted, what was most important to me was how good the bear itself looked on screen. In this case, the CGI was actually flawlessly done. The bear's simplistic design also adds to the realistic quality of his look. I don't want to say you ever really forget that Ted is a stuffed animal, but there are some moments where their interactions seem genuine. And I think that's important in a movie like this, so that the premise doesn't wear out on the audience. A lot of people may be surprised to see Ted up here, but I really wanted a comedic movie on my list, and when you start to look at the comedies with the Boston setting, this one honestly might stand as the best one so far. Ted's not perfect, some of the jokes landed and others didn't for me, but overall, I thought it was an entertaining movie with raunchy fun that pokes fun at a lot of the local stereotypes, making use of some identifiable locations throughout, easily earning itself the number 8 spot. Up next at number 7 is Shutter Island from 2010. This movie's atmosphere is just incredible. Martin Scorsese really conveys the cold, damp, windy environment of the Boston Harbor setting, which helps build the moody tone of the film. Shutter Island marks the fourth time he's worked with actor Leonardo DiCaprio, who gives his usual natural performance, filled with nervous energy that builds throughout the film. His haunting depiction makes it easy to vicariously live the movie through his character, with acting that keeps the suspense alive until the final revelations are made. Co-star Mark Ruffalo also gives an exceptional performance as DiCaprio's detective partner. He has a very unassuming quality that allows him to incorporate himself seamlessly into this role and give a consistent, straightforward performance. However, even with all the great acting, Shutter Island has still received mixed reviews. Maybe it's the movie's cryptic ending that may have put some people off, but I absolutely love Shutter Island, and I don't think you could have asked for better performances or for a character as complex and compelling as Teddy Daniels. This movie demands repeat viewing. Shutter Island is the first film based on a Dennis Lehane novel on my list, and it won't be the last. Next up at number 6, The Fighter from 2010, starring Mark Wahlberg as real-life boxer Mickey Ward. Now you're probably already thinking that this one is set in Lowell, not Boston. But come on, Lowell's just 25 miles away. It's a big city with a working-class mentality, not unlike Boston and the surrounding neighborhoods. Nitpick me if you want, but I'm including it. Besides, this could be one of the most honest portrayals of people from Massachusetts done on film, and I can't ignore that on a list like this. It's a sports drama that does much more than just tell a boxing story. The collective effort of this cast's depiction of a dysfunctional family is nothing short of amazing. They really held nothing back in their performances. Being a local, everything just looks and feels authentic and oddly familiar. The family dynamics explored in this film are very compelling and captured in such a genuine way. Mark Wahlberg does an incredible job playing a conflicted character, trying to balance his career and love life while trying to maintain his loyalty to his family. All excellent reasons to see this movie, but the one person whose acting puts it over the top is Christian Bale. He is beyond convincing. This is by far one of the greatest acting performances I've ever seen. It's a complete transformation, with Bale doing a phenomenal job of channeling Dickie's manic energy and capturing every nuance of his twitchy mannerisms throughout the film. He blends in flawlessly with the streets of Lowell, Massachusetts. The Fighter succeeds highly in telling a good sports story, as well as delivering a top-notch family drama, easily grabbing the number 6 spot. Number 5, Gone Baby Gone from 2007, another movie based on a Dennis Lehane novel. We get a double dose of Affleck, with older brother Ben delivering a very promising feature directional debut, and younger brother Casey giving us an exceptional portrayal of a Boston area private detective hired to investigate a young girl's kidnapping. Michelle Monaghan does a fine job as his girlfriend and investigative partner. Together, as the two unravel the mystery of the missing child, they're ultimately faced with a daunting decision that reflects the heavy tone of the film, which challenges the character's morality as they're faced with a compelling ethical dilemma. As far as the setting goes, it doesn't get much better. The whole scale of this movie is tremendous, with Ben Affleck filming locations like Cambridge, Dorchester, Chelsea, and Medford, along with a proper setting as a full cast featuring veteran actors like Morgan Freeman and Ed Harris. This is a captivating mystery full of suspenseful moments that are brought on by strong acting and fantastic dialogue. With a missing little girl involved, your emotional investment is bound to be high. Gone Baby Gone is a dark, violent, backstreets of Boston, tough guy movie and a prime example of what kind of stories this city has to tell. Up next at number 4 is The Town from 2010, another one with Ben Affleck involved that has no doubt helped restore his credibility with Hollywood. As well as direct, he turns in a fine acting job, playing the leader of a bank robber crew out of Charlestown. This is a traditional heist tale with an interesting plot twist where the fugitive starts to fall in love with his former hostage. Jeremy Renner gives a grade A performance as Affleck's lifelong friend and partner in crime. He's a reckless individual that constantly has to be reined in, and a good contrast to Ben's character, leading to some intense showdowns. Actor John Hamm has some scene-stealing moments as the special agent trying to stop the robberies. There's an effective cat-and-mouse game between the crew and the FBI that plays out dramatically. The Town is a visually impressive film, with a lot of violence and intimidation coming across as shockingly real. In its follow-up as a director, Affleck really steps up the action, shooting some amazing car chase and shootout scenes in some very recognizable locations like Fenway Park and Boston's North End. Ben is no doubt a major player in what has become the Boston subgenre of crime dramas, having a knack for contributing to some terrific on-screen storytelling, like The Town at number 4. At number 3, Dennis Lehane scores again with another film adaptation. Mystic River is a character-driven film carried on by amazing acting performances that convey the dramatic realism of this gloomy tale. Kevin Bacon and Lawrence Fishburne play Boston detectives working with state troopers to solve a 19-year-old girl's recent murder. Their scenes together play out like an episode of Law & Order, sharing great chemistry and roles that help establish the film's premise. Sean Penn plays the father of the young victim, in what is again one of the greatest acting performances I think I've ever seen. He's incredibly overwhelmed by anguish, something that never gets lost throughout the film. With Sean Penn and Laura Linney's emotional characterization of grief-stricken parents, the sense of despair is never forgotten by the audience. Rounding out the ensemble cast is Tim Robbins, who gives an absolutely astounding performance as a tortured man haunted by the abuse he suffered as a child. Along with Marcia Gay Harden, the pair act out a dynamic relationship that features heavily in the plot. Directed by Clint Eastwood, Mystic River digs real deep into the Boston neighborhoods to find the perfect atmosphere that drives home this thrilling drama. Number 2, The Departed, from 2006, with an all-star cast led by Jack Nicholson, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Matt Damon. Scorsese puts his Goodfellas touch on the Irish mob tales of South Boston. The Departed does an impressive job of juggling the on-screen time with such a full cast. Even actors in smaller roles, like Mark Wahlberg, make full use of their moments. He delivers some hysterical dialogue, proving to be the comic relief along with Jack Nicholson and Alec Baldwin, in a movie that's a lot funnier than you might expect. Nicholson stars as Frank Costello, leader of the South Boston Irish mob. He turns in another distinguished, charismatic performance, improvising in a lot of scenes, adding to the unpredictability of his character. This movie in general will keep you guessing all the way up until the end, especially once you realize no one is safe. The suspense is led by the intense rat race between Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio, playing characters at opposite ends of the Massachusetts State Police, trying to smoke each other out. With a love triangle mixed in, there's several layers to this plot that keep you invested in the film. Martin Scorsese filmed what he could on location. However, at the time it was cheaper to film in New York, and that's what they did for a lot of the city shots. But with the financial success of this movie, it helped pave the way of the Massachusetts tax credit for filmmaking, helping every movie on this list that's come out after it. The Departed is the pinnacle of the violent Boston crime dramas that have found success in Hollywood in the past decade. We'll have to take a movie with a lot of heart to top this one. At number 1, from 1997, is Good Will Hunting. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck wrote and star in this heartfelt story that is well on its way to becoming a timeless classic. Damon stars as a math genius from Southie who grew up an orphan, a complex character that finds himself on the wrong side of the law. There's a transition of this character that is captured magnificently by smart and insightful writing. A lot of that, of course, shows in Damon's dialogue with Robin Williams, starring as the therapist hired by the university that paroled Will. Their scenes together are beyond phenomenal, and what has to be Robin Williams' best acting performance, if not Matt Damon's as well. The two of them convey the emotional chess match and dialogue perfectly. There's a lot at stake, because the personal growth of Will Hunting uniquely affects the relationships with his best friends and his girlfriend, characterized wonderfully by Minnie Driver. These are two dynamics that are impressively brought to life on screen. Good Will Hunting succeeds in capturing all the qualities that make up a great Boston movie. We get a little bit of everything that's on this list: vocal characters, tough guys from Boston, a surprisingly funny script, filmed on location, and quotable lines. The film also contains 3 actors in the top 10, with an early role for Casey Affleck, along with older brother Ben and Matt Damon. So it's only fitting to end on the movie that started it all. Well, there it is, the top 10 best Boston movies of the last 20 years. For those of you that made it all the way to the end, I thank you. It was a lot of fun popping in the DVDs, breaking down my favorite movies, and putting them in order. This video is by no means a be-all end-all, but rather an example to inspire discussion. A list like this can be helpful to anyone that wants to know which ones are the best and who got it right when it comes to Boston. In closing, I hope that even if you don't agree with me 100%, you were still entertained and intrigued enough to consider your own top 10 list. With the rate that Hollywood is pumping out local movies, it's only a matter of time before the top 20 video will have to be made. For now, this was a good place to start.